Everyone, thank you for joining us for our bi-monthly webinar series at ETRAGE. Today we'll be covering Windchill promotion request process enhancements. Your primary presenter will be Robert Serhan, and myself, Scott Rich, will be handling a few introductory comments and slides. This is something that we do twice a month, typically on PTC Windchill and Creo related topics. Hopefully these are going to be informative, instructional, and helpful to everyone who attends. Typically, a recording is made available within 24 hours on both our website and our YouTube channel. We would love to get feedback and questions as we present. If you look in the upper left-hand corner of that user interface, you should see a Q&A tab. Please submit all questions through there. As all attendees are in listen-only mode, that's the only way to forward your questions to us. Thanks again, and let's get started. A brief agenda. I'll cover just a few welcome and introductory remarks. We'll pass things over to Robert Serhan, who will go into a detailed presentation on the promotion request process and custom enhancements that he has developed. Then a live demonstration of these enhancements. And then if time allows and we have them, we'll cover your questions. Robert is an outstanding Windchill administrator, architect, and implementer, more than 17 years of experience specific with Windchill, and another 10 years beyond that in the larger PTC ecosystem. Certified instructor in business administration and system administration of Windchill, CAD management, workflow administration, as well as NPM Link for manufacturing with Windchill. Myself, I have been in the PTC ecosystem for the last 10 years. I specialize in helping designers and manufacturers fully adopt PLM across the enterprise. A little bit about ETRAGE. We've been in business as a PTC technology partner for more than 20 years. We help companies identify and then fill the gaps in their digital thread. Big part of that is identifying what prevents end users from fully adopting and fully making use of all the data stored in Windchill, and then we go about attacking anything that holds that up. Again, our goal is full PLM adoption across the enterprise. We work with our customers to get their feedback, to hear about unique processes that are necessary for your business model. Then we work with you to identify how those systems are set up and architected. We work with you on how those systems are going to be managed. And then we work with you to identify what do your end users require to be successful, that especially when you get outside of engineering and have PLM go across the enterprise. We have a lot of expertise in this area. Again, more than 20 years as a PTC technology partner. This will be the last slide that I cover. We have a large customer base that we're very grateful for. These customers use a number of our off-the-shelf products, such as the viewer, our publisher, our drawing note search. These are all topics we've covered in previous webinars. We can happy to point you to those. If you'd like to see a recording, just reach out to us. And today we'll be focusing more on our services. We provide a number of things, including custom app development, cloud hosting of Windchill. And today we'll be covering customizations to Windchill, specifically promotion requests. Again, submit your questions to that Q&A tab. We'll cover them if we have time. Thanks in advance, and I'll hand things off to Robert Serhan now.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Before I start the meeting, let me quickly introduce the promotion request object if you're not familiar with it. It's a standard object, Windchill standard object out of the box. It's very reliable, very solid, very robust. It ties to an out-of-the-box process workflow.
Robert, before you get any further, can you hit the full screen button there in the upper right-hand corner? There we go. That looks great.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks. Sorry about that. So again, I'm walking through the quick introduction of the promotion request object, which is the standard object out of the box in Windchill. It's controlled through preferences, potentially policies. And its main goal is to formalize the state change of end user object like parts, WT parts, CAD documents, and regular documents. As I mentioned itself, it's process driven, so it ties to an out-of-the-box workflow. And the initiation of that object is controlled through a wizard. So the end user can go through these steps and initiate the promotion request. Itself is lifecycle managed, so therefore it's subject to policies. So you can really write policies specific to the object, to the promotion request, where you can restrict who can actually initiate the creation of that object. It is not a version control object, so you can't. There's no checkout, check-in. There's no revision of that object. However, it is subject for modifications, but it does not have historical records of those changes like just regular version controlled objects like documents and so on. Can potentially leverage multiple processes through preferences. Don't recommend that usually. I like to consolidate all potential branches of your approval process through some other conditions rather than on relying on the user to go select what process really they meant to go through for approval process. You can subtype it, so you can create subtypes of it, and typically you would do that again to control based on some condition what potential workflow routing the work or the process should go through. It supports state-based versioning. We'll break that one down, explain it later. And again, it's created through a wizard that is semi-configurable. Restrictions. Potentially the promotion request acts as a collector. So you can add to it as many of the object that you're trying to formally change their states. So you could put parts, documents, WT parts, and other maybe NPM link objects and other objects potentially that you manage in your Windchill environment. But the restriction is that all these objects must have a common destination state. You cannot be selective. You can't say this document goes to prototype, this drawing goes to release, and something else. The promotion request is not set up to do that. They all must go to the same destination state. Additionally, for us administrators, we have additional sort of flexibility to further control who can actually promote objects that they have collected into the promotion request. And we can do that through policies. So the mandated policy is any object added to the PR, the creator, the initiator that had initiated the PR creation must have at least modify or set state on these objects. Otherwise, the wizard will pick up on that discrepancy and will say you cannot really promote these objects. So that's basically the quick introduction of that promotion request. Throughout the years, customers have come to me and really complained about the out-of-the-box process, the workflow. And it says, for the most part, it works great, but there's a lot of things that are missing, things that are potentially create discrepancies, issues. And I have developed, and this is definitely not the entire list. The list is way longer, but due to time restrictions, those are the only ones I can squeeze in as part of this presentation. But we'll talk the list so that way you don't run away. Here's the entire list. I'm going to be able to cover maybe 80% of these. Some I'll just talk about because they're very straightforward. We'll talk about state-based versioning and the enhancements that I've added if you do use state-based versioning, and I'll explain it in its own slide. Each one of these bulletins have a slide, by the way. Selected approvers, break that down. There's a couple slides for that one, how to automatically have approvers be selected, how to force approvers, how to make sure the initiator does not select themselves as approver. All that is in there. And then we'll just mention quickly that we can direct the workflow of that promotion request based on destination state or even user-defined attributes. We'll further talk about the object status. Some people add objects to promote, but they collect dependencies and they forget to check those objects to be promoted as well. So I have written a code to pick on that and direct the workflow for the initiator to correct the issue. This is the big one is the prevent processing of object in multiple PRs. This one, a lot of customers have came to me throughout the years, and they really wanted something in there that prevents users from taking an object that is currently active in a workflow, in a promotion request workflow, and include it in a new promotion request or multiple promotion requests, which kind of create a lot of headaches for administrators to resolve these issues. Enforce activity comments. So we'll talk a little bit about that one, how you could selectively identify when comments are required. Something that you're not going to find anywhere else, really. PTC has some sort of a solution on an article where it involves some JavaScripting and so on, which makes all comments, regardless of what routing option you select, it just makes them all required, which is something customer did not want. Now, display comment instructions, so they're added to the instruction field, and therefore they're sent out via email. So let's talk about that one. Detect whether rework if object were added or removed, and we'll talk about that one as well. Prevent the completion of the rework task if the objects are still checked out, and the ability to move objects to controlled areas to restrict changes. We'll explain that as well. And to further do some checks on the objects included, and the checks could include, the common one is for if certain attributes have not been assigned value, and we can check on that and report a list to the initiator and say, hey, these objects cannot be promoted because they're missing values, and those values need to be, or those attributes need to be identified before you can promote. And there's another one here also, dependencies. A lot of times users will try to attempt to promote a drawing and they forget to add the models referenced by that drawings. And we can evaluate that and send it back to the initiator and let them know that's what happened. And there's an item that I did not include here. It's sort of a bonus item. And that item will be the last thing I'll talk about, which is the how to resolve non-revisional changes. A lot of customers, came to me and said, "Hey, sometimes we release something, and this drawing, we just looked at it, printed it out, and we noticed that there's a misspelling or something. We don't want to revise this. Is there a quick way of doing this without including or involving administrator?" So I'll leave that till the end. That's sort of like a bonus presentation. If you're not familiar with state-based versioning, the idea behind it is that you take the object and you have that object use a lifecycle that promotes state-based versioning, and based on the revise action on a certain lifecycle state, it switches from one scheme to another. The out-of-the-box state-based promotes or has two schemes in it. Starts with numeric and then moves to alpha. Okay, and the issue is, back in the days in releases 9 and 10, the PTC had this in place, but they really did not have any automations. And I think of release 11, I believe they introduced this auto revision as part of the promotion request. And it's a preference, and you tell it, hey, when the object gets to the state through a promotion request, the promotion request should do an automatic revision. The problem, and why does it have to do an auto revision? Because that is the action required to do the switch from, let's say, numeric to alpha. So that's mandated to do that scheme switch. Well, okay, fine. If it does that, and it works awesome with a preference. The issue is that the life cycle that you have in place, when the revise action is executed in an object in the release state, typically your transitions will force it to go to a different state. And the promotion request doesn't have any intelligence in it to say, oh, wait a minute, this is an auto revise. So if I should set it back to the destination state and not leave it in the current state that it's in. And that's where I implemented a code and to automate that. So I'm going to switch back to my presentation and show you how that works. So this is the object that uses state-based versioning. And if I select this object and try to revise it, you would notice that the state it's going to want to go to is 2. or sorry, the revision we want to go to is 2. So now let's go ahead and attempt to promote this object. And we want to go to, let's say, released. Next. And I understand here it's something that I just warned you about, but for the purpose of this demonstration, I had to break down all these enhancements to different workflows. It made life a lot easier for me to do the presentation. But this is something I would always shy away from. You should not have a list of processes where you have to rely on the user to select one or the other. That should not be in place. Users are always going to make mistakes. You know, they're always going to not pay attention to what is the default process, and they're going to just go in there and determine, you know, what the approver is, or what the what the person needs to receive the task. So this should never be in place. Should be always automated. But for the purpose of this, I'll just go with that flow. So I just initiated the workflow, and if we go to the workflow process and we go to the approve, and we simply complete the task with the approve, and we return to the state base, and you notice now that object is a dash and released. So now if we try to revise it, you notice it's going to go to A. So what really happened here, if I open the information page of that object and go to the history, you would see here in the timeline history, you'll see what happened. So yeah, okay, it was created, it went to under review. That's the transition for the promote. The promotion request did that. Then it was approved to released, and the auto revise took place, and it went to production change. So without the code I have in the workflow, it would have stopped here, and you would have had this -1 at that state, production change. But because of that code that got evaluated in the workflow, it determined that this is the first time that the auto revise took place, and therefore I have to change the state back to the destination state, which was released. So that's the enhancement that we have in place. Hope that makes sense. Evaluate selected approvers. So now we're switching to the way we control how our approvers selected as part of the wizard, or potentially evaluate that selection and inform the initiator if there are some discrepancies. So I need to make it clear. The wizard is, as I mentioned earlier, semi-configurable. And I tend to want to really focus on the configuration as part of the workflow, because if you really want to configure the wizard, at that point you're doing what I call hardcore customization. At that point you're really messing around or introducing new files that you have to worry about when you're upgrading your Windchill, versus if you just focus on workflows and just simply Java snippets. Typically those Java snippets and those APIs, they don't really affect your upgrade process. So you're never going to have to worry about making sure that the code you embedded in the files works in the next version or not. So that's what I call sort of lightweight configuration, and it really relies on very robust APIs that PTC seldom depreciate. So in here, you could get away with doing whatever you want, selecting yourself, for example, as an approver, or cheat and select a group that you belong to. And this is some of the restrictions that customers really want to prevent. As an initiator, you should not be really approving your own work. So I have code in there. Post initiation, the code evaluates the approver and will potentially send the initiator a task identifying that they, by mistake or intentionally, have selected themselves as approvers, and that is not something that is really permitted in the environment. The PTC, if you look in the knowledge base, you will see PTC knowledge base has a snippet code that does exactly what I'm explaining here. But what the discrepancy is that code only works for when you select users, directly users, to become approvers. And at that point, you can, if you select yourself, that code works perfect, and it just says, hey, you should not be doing this, and it sends you the task to correct that issue. What I have added to this, which the PTC available code does not work, is when you go in and you cheat and you select the entire group as an approver, because you're in there, you're a member of that group. So at that point, everybody receives that task, including yourself. That code does not pick up on that. So I have actually done quite a bit of work there to evaluate if the selection is a group, further go into that group and make sure that initiator name is not a member of that group. If it is, send it back to the initiator and let them correct the issue. The way we do this, the correction of the issue, we add an activity called resolve PR, and you're going to see that that activity comes up for all these balances, checks and balances that I have in place. And in this particular one, we have the setup participant table added, and then the initiator could go in there and fix the issue. Okay, so let's switch back to my demo. All right, prevent self-approving. So we'll take this WT part and we'll do a promotion on it. Next. And it's going to go to release, that's fine. And here I want to do the prevent self-approving. Again, I want to stress, this is not something I recommend. Usually I consolidate all these checks and balances into one workflow. So here's the problem here. You can see I am a member of this approvers. Now, if I was to select myself here, it wouldn't be a problem. But what I want to do is I'm going to come in here and select this group. Okay. So now the promotion request is going to send me and the org admin supposedly tasked to approve. Well, because the code says no, as an initiator, I should not be included as an approver. So when I finish this, we'll come to the prevent, and you see here there's a resolve PR. And if we come in here, you will notice that there is this task here, or the setup participant. And by the way, there's no way to escape this. If I hit complete, it will bring up this exception letting me know that, hey, you selected yourself as an approver. Okay. Of course, it'll be instructions in here letting them know exactly what the issue is. But regardless if they're instructions or not, if they attempt to complete the task, they'll receive that particular one. All right, I'm going to leave this PR running, and I'm going to come back and cover this particular one. Additional enhancement that I have, in the case you have multiple approvers or your environment mandates that multiple approvers have to actually evaluate or review the drawings. And typically, when you do this, you're really waiting for everybody to vote in, or at least the out-of-the-box functionality is set up in that way. So if you have, let's say, 5 approvers, the out-of-the-box function says, I'm going to wait regardless of the cast, regardless what routing options have been voted in. It's going to wait till all 5 have completed their task. And at that point, the tallying execute, and the system evaluates if there are any reworks or reject, then it goes that route. Well, typically customers do not like this. They say, what we like to do, as long as approvers are approving, then wait. But if any of them says reject or rework, we want to automatically go that route and have the other task be completed automatically. And there's the, so I put in there, code that does that. This is something that PTC, it's an API that PTC presented or introduced, I believe, 12.1, maybe 12.0, not really sure. But That's something that PTC had introduced, but it requires a little bit of working with. So let's fix this. So I'm going to remove the entire group, these two as well. Oh, I shouldn't have done that, but that's okay. So let's add, and we'll do a search here. So let's add the engineer, org admin, and the manager. We'll add all these three as approvers. And now if I try to complete the task, it should not yell at me anymore. So it says, okay, great. You did not include yourself. So it's going to proceed. And now we have three different approval tasks that have been sent out. So let's start. Let's go to the engineer. And this is the engineer. So if I refresh the page, there's that task. And as long as I do the approve, I should be okay. So if I hit complete task on approve, let's come back to me, refresh this page. And now you'll see that it says, okay, the engineer had approved this, no problem. The other two are still running. So let's jump onto the org admin. And we're going to do is the org admin is we're going to say, oh, the org admin did not like what's going on. And we are going to select the rework. So what happened is I complete this, minimize this, come back here, refresh my page. And you notice now what happened, we went directly to the rework. Okay, what happened to the manager task? It got completed by the admin. And this is something that should be obvious to internally, that if there's a task completed by the admin, that means it was obviously administrators are not going to be sent tasks to review anything. So that's what that code did. It picked up that there is a rework and it went to the rework option. Right, come back here. Automate approver role assignees. So configure the promotion request workflow to disable the selection in step 3. And what you're doing there, you're no longer relying on users to actually go in and select specific users or added users to the approver's role, or any role that you potentially use in your context team. So for these users that are assigned under that role receive the promotion approver task. Okay, so and you do this potentially by not actually eliminating step 3. Step 3 remains in the wizard, but what you could do, you could configure your workflow with some variables, built-in variables that the wizard picks up on, and it says, okay, well, if you go to step 3, there are not going to be any participants in there that you can select. And there is actually another solution that PTC has in place where you could actually disable it, turn it off, so it doesn't show up in the wizard. Again, that relies on tweaking some internal file in the Windchill installation point. Again, I don't like this because you can do upgrades, and then you have to, after upgrade, you have to go and make changes to that file. So again, anything that's hardly requires hard modification to the Windchill files, I try to stay away from as much as possible. Additionally, so at that point, if you don't allow selection, well, who receives these tasks? Well, then you control this through the team template and your context team, and that you could be selective. You could have multiple roles, and the users assigned or groups assigned those roles. Those become the recipient. And the last thing is, even if the product manager forgets to assign users to those roles that now you're relying on to identify the recipient of the approvers, we could also evaluate those and let the initiator know, or the product manager, or even a higher administrator, say, hey, this promotion request has the potential of being stalled or halted, because it's attempting to send users' tasks for approval, but it couldn't identify those users because the role that it's looking for is empty, does not have anybody assigned to it. So we can actually configure this in a way where we can avoid mistakes. Right, let me switch back to my... And I'm going to reject this just to keep things sane here. And we'll go back to... And now I can take any object really and try to promote it. So let's say, let's do a new promotion request on this and hit next. And next is fine. And I'm going to say, notice now what happens when I hit this particular workflow. And all this disappears. And again, I'll remind you, this is not something I recommend. You should not be relying on users to select the correct process. Okay. Again, I did this for keep sanity because you can see a lot of moving parts here. So that's the reason why I did this. But notice now that I selected this particular process, which is a workflow. So the wizard picked up on the content of that workflow, and within the workflow, I've told it, hey, no selection is allowed. And when I finish this, I'm not going to finish it, but potentially when I finish this in the production environment, it should go and identify certain roles and certain people that are assigned under that role as part of the context team. And if you're not don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm creating this in this product one, and here's the team. So for example, the common ones are promotion approvers, but again, you could have identified any of these roles. So for example, I could have told it, well, send the task for everybody assigned as a member, and engineer, manager, and anybody in this group, including myself, would have received that task. So that's what that particular one talks about. Part of the consolidation of multiple branches or approval processes that you might have in place could potentially be identified based on the destination state as a condition. So in the workflow, I could determine what destination state you're trying to set your objects to. And keep in mind, one of the restrictions of the promotion request is that all objects that you're promoting must share the same destination state. So it's not like, oh, well, how do we know that things are going to the same state? Well, it's mandated by the promotion request. So there's really no, it's 100% decision. And by doing this, I pick up, there's code you can put in there, and it'll pick up the value. And then if it's prototype, it goes that route. If it's released, it goes some other route. I'm not going to show a demonstration of this because it's very straightforward. All right, we'll take it further. Maybe, yes, Robert, if we rely on the destination state, just one condition, but we have additional conditions. If it's prototype and it's maybe in the USA versus India, for example, there's different routing because of that. Well, how do we further, distinguish what branch in a workflow we go through based on these values? So as I said, the promotion request wizard is semi-configurable. So I can create unique attributes to the promotion request object, assign them pull-down list, make them required. So consciously, the creator will force them to go into that attribute and consciously identify, hey, what are you trying to do here? How would the approval process be selected? And then that process gets evaluated. So now we can say if the destination state is released and the approval is in the USA, it's going to tend to go the route where users in the USA in a specific role receive those tasks versus India or some other country. And again, you could make this as complex as possible if needed to. And I'll just point it out. I'm not going to create the actual workflow, but I'll show you just quickly how that works. If I come back to the product one, we'll take that same object. We'll just do a promotion request, and just here really on page 1 of the wizard, you see I could do things like USA versus India. We could do companies if needed to. And by the way, you could apply in here the cascading. So you could make this really intelligent, where if you select India, this would be hard-coded to go to a certain value and so on. So there's quite a bit of things you could do here that are very intuitive. Right? I'm not going to create the promotion request. This is very, very straightforward. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Promotion status. So the what we can do here in the as part of the enhancement, some customers come to me and say, "Hey, sometimes, Robert, we try to promote, for example, a drawing, and as we go through that process, we select the drawing, we go promote, and we don't have the default selection because it's very cumbersome in a sense where it collects all dependencies, formats, and we find ourselves doing a lot of work to eliminating some of these objects we don't intend to promote." So what happens is they introduce the drawing and they go, okay, I need to include the model. So as part of the promotion request step 2, they use the collection icon or the collection functionality, where they could go selectively say, would like to add, related documents, maybe related models, and so on. And once they do that, they add these models into the promotion request object. But what they do is they forget to set them up for promotion. Okay, and the promotion request itself requires only one of these objects to be set to promote. Now, if you don't select any of them to be promote, then yes, the wizard will actually bring up an exception or an error message telling you that, hey, you forgot to select some object to be promoted. But the issue is that if you start with a drawing and the drawing has one destination state that gets selected automatically, then that object gets to be promoted automatically, or the set to promote is set up automatically. And now any additional object you have to take and make sure that they're set for promotion as well. Well, if that happens and you have at least one of these objects set to promote, you can go to the next step and you could complete the promotion request, and nothing gonna actually prompt you to say, hey, you have objects you have added in here and you forgot to set to promote. Now, mind you, in some scenarios, at least a couple of them I've encountered in my experience of implementing Windchill, in some cases we do want to add objects to this promotion object table, but not set them to be promoted intentionally. That's a very unique situation. No need to talk about it. It's used for some other purposes to evaluate some other dependencies that we want to collect, like WT part, documents, and other things. So the enhancement I have here, this particular list gets evaluated, and it lets the initiator know that, hey, by the way, all the objects you included have not been set to be promoted. So let me go through that one, and we'll do, how about we do some of these objects here. Do a new promotion. Next, and you see here, because nothing was set to be promoted because there's no because multiple destination states are identified. So let's go to prototype, and if I attempt to select them, it thinks that it prompts me here. It says, hey, by the way, you can't do this because they all have to share same destination state. Well, it happens that this document does not have a path for prototyping. We don't prototype documents. So let's change this to released. And if we set them all up, same thing here. There's no way to go directly from design. So there's a lot of intelligence that takes place in this in the wizard, and I just wanted to point that out to you. There's no enhancement here. This is part of the wizard, if you like, business rules that have been set up. So here, really, I am forced to get rid of this so we can demonstrate what's going on with this. So now we have gone to prototype, and let's say I select just those two components and I'll leave the rest unselected. And we're going to go to next step, and we are going to select this particular workflow, and we'll select myself as an approver. And we'll finish this. And if we come to the promotion request, and there should be the resolve PR again, and it says not all objects have been set to promote. And if I happen to complete the task, it will do the same thing and won't let me go through. And to fix this, you could initially set up the, and before I do this, I'm sorry, I have a sort of like a true false variable. If you really want to override this, you could check this box, and at that point, it will not complain. But technically speaking, it in this case, I really want to include these objects. So what I can do is I can edit the actual promotion request, go to that step, select all, include, and now you see, make sure all of them have been included. So it looks good. Finish. And if we come back to the promotion request, and we are going to complete the task. And now it should not complain. And in a minute here, we should have the approved promotion request. PR object promote status. I'm sorry, this is the same one. Prevent processing objects in multiple PRs. This is a very, very controversial topic that I've been seeing for years in the PTC community. And it wasn't until like 3 years ago, some customer came in and really pressed me to find a solution to this issue. Let me explain what that issue is. And now I have implemented this for maybe 5 or 6 customers. The solution prevents users from including objects that are currently running through an active promotion request in the rework stage. And I stress on that, in the rework stage, because if you have set up your life cycles in a proper manner, as long as the workflow is in the approve stage, meaning the objects are under review, there's no need to do any of this, because the promotion request and your policies will identify that the objects under review, no initiator, no user will have modify or set state. If you recall, that was one of the restrictions of the promotion request. So at that point, in step 2, what the user gonna encounter, the stuff I showed you earlier, like all these yellow triangles, like, hey, you can't proceed. You don't have the right permission to promote this. So there's really no issue at that point. They can't complete the initiation of the PR. The problem lies is that when approvers send the PR workflow to the initiator with a potential rework task. So what happens at that point, the promotion request will take these objects and will set them back to the initial state that they were promoted from. So typically that state would be something like in work or design or some other state that you use, where your designers and engineers at that point will gain access to those objects to check them out and modify them and so on. At that point, if there's really nothing obvious in the environment that tells the user, hey, be aware that this object is actually actively going through a rework stage and is actively being processed through an active promotion request. Unlike the ECN objects, where when you're using ECN or change notice, at least it will put that icon for you. And at that point, you'll know at least, okay, well, this is actively being approved or reworked. Promotion request, you have to dig deeper, and I'll show you what are the steps to identify that, which was commonly ignored by designers and engineers. So what does this particular enhancement do? It would evaluate the object that somebody else might be double promoting, and it will say, oh, you can't do that, and we'll present them with, again, the PR or resolve PR, and we'll bring in a table, let them know that, hey, these objects are currently being actually going through an active works promotion request, and you cannot really double promote them. Okay, the enhancement I've done for this in the last 2 years, or even the last 6 months, is the ability to distinguish new revision versus current revision that you're promoting. So customers came to me and said, okay, well, okay, great that you're preventing double promotions on the current revision, but what we do in our environment is sometimes if we're going through an approval process for revision A, we want the functionality or the flexibility to revise to B and deal with those revisions separately. So if it's A that's active, if we go to B, give us the option to release B. Even A is not released yet. Believe it or not, this is a scenario that customers might have as a reality. So that was the enhancement I've done in this in the latest update for this enhancement. All right, let me switch back to my environment, and let's go ahead and take. We'll go to the task completion, and these are the same object, and they should be under review right now. Let me go do that. So yeah, they are under review. And I don't need to demonstrate to you. If I was to initiate a promotion request on any of these, I might as well. And let me do that. So notice these objects are under review. They're going through a promotion request, right? And you know that from the under review state. So by default, if I try to promote any of these, right away, I'm going to get this. And this due to policies. Not necessarily anything to do with the promotion request or any enhancements I've done. That's built in. Policies. Okay. Let's now go through the rework. And it should be sent to me as the initiator. So if I come here, notice the state went back to design. So now if we come back here, notice the objects are back to design. But there's nothing in here that tells me visually, like this object is actually going through a PR. What I have to do is I got to go dig up the object, go to the history, and see that, oh, yeah, there's an authorization, a PR running. Well, I don't even know if it's running. I have to open it up and look at its state. Oh, it's under review, so it must be active. And I can see here that it is running. Nobody does this. There's no user going to dig deep and identify that, okay, I should leave that object alone because it's being modified by other people. All right, so now let's take these objects and attempt to promote them. So we'll take all these 4 and we'll create a new promotion. Next, notice the wizard is not going to stop me. So it says, okay, yeah, you go prototype, no problem. Policies are there, you can do that. And we are going to do object, and we might as well select myself as an approver and finish this. And a second here, you're going to see the resolve task come up in. And what happens is you're going to see what gets displayed here is the following. So it picks up the type of the object and it identifies, it gives you identity of it, what version it is and so on. And it gives you a link to the actual promotion request and the creator of that promotion request. So a lot of work went into this to make this happen in the background, and you can see it doesn't bog down your Windchill. It's very quick. It's all text and metadata. It's not really doing anything here fancy, but I mean, there's a lot of intelligence that came into the way I coded this. But overall, it's not a big burden on the Windchill services. Okay. And again, if I try to complete this, it will yell at me and it'll give me actually an option. This pop-up is dynamic in a sense where if you go in and you start removing objects, or maybe you have a long list of objects you're promoting that just happen 2 of them are being processed by another active workflow or promotion request, maybe you could edit, remove them, and come back and try to complete. So this list is dynamic. However, this table is not. So this table is static, and it only gets compiled when this task gets initiated. But the pop-up is actually live. And the option here, again, to reject. And again, for sanity, I'm doing this. Next item, comments entry, required comments entry. I talked about it initially when I was doing the initial enhancements. If you look on the PTC knowledge base, there is a way to make comments required. And you can do that through some crazy introduction of some JavaScript. I don't even know if they still have that available, to be honest with you. It's been a while since I looked at it. It was not acceptable to me. It's like, it makes all comments at that point required. What I was able to do is to determine through API and some coding I put together is to actually take it a step further and make the requirement based on a routing option that you select and make it optional for all the other, okay? There'll be a demo for that, but I need to cover this because it includes this functionality as well.
Robert, just a quick reminder, we have about 7 minutes left to our presentation today. I want to encourage all the attendees to submit questions quickly if you have them.
Oh, really? Okay. So I'm going to try to shy away from doing demos because I really want to get to the last one. So this particular one, a customer came in and says, hey, can we send those comments in an email? And the way I did this, I put some code in there to collect those particular comments into a variable, put that variable in the instructions, and by default instructions, the instruction variable are included in notification. And I have total control what type of comments I want here, all of them, last 3. So I have total control over that. Additionally, what we could do, we could rework the PR status. So when you're in a rework and you attempt to, typically when you're in a rework, you want to check out the object and make modifications to them. So we have code in there. If you forget to check them in, you cannot complete the task, the rework task, unless the object are checked in. The other one is this was presented to me by a customer, and the customer wanted to make sure that if the approvers select rework, they want to be advised or warned that the initial list of the object they sent to be reworked has been changed. So potentially when you send a rework task, the recipient or the initiator of the promotion request out of the box will have the option to edit, add, and remove objects from that list. Okay, so the customer says the approvers take it for granted that list is still stagnant and they don't go through it, and sometimes additional objects are missed from being reviewed. Move objects PRs. So potentially we could put code in the promotion request to move object. The purpose behind that to restrict changes. A lot of times as we're going through promotion requests, we get to a stage where we want to allow certain users to update objects, but not allow others to actually touch those objects. And to do that, we can move the object to a place where it has a folder technically, and it has what we call very restrictive domain policies. And I'll show you that later on was the last demo I want to present to you. We could check for attributes if they're null. We talked about this. Missing dependencies, we could potentially, as I mentioned, if you're attempting to promote a drawing, for example, and it's mandated that if a drawing is referenced by models, we cannot release the drawing and leave the models at a state where they can continue modifying them. That would be a horrible, horrible environment where drawings are not going to be reflective of all the latest, or actually the actual changes or the actual information that was initially released. And it goes further, right? Could go into CAD, WT parts and documents associated with them. So we could dig deeper into this. This is the one I wanted to show before we end this presentation, is the non-revisional changes. And I was able to do this for drawings programmatically today. And I did it by a change request. As I mentioned when I introduced this, customers come in and say, hey, can we automate this so users can pick drawings and drawings only, and somehow allow modification of these drawings for that specific initiator without the help of administrators. And I was able to do this by creating an ECN, not an ECN, an ECR. And I want to demonstrate that, so I show you. So first of all, if you look here, this is me logged in as a regular user, and I'm going to switch and show you the administrator page. So if I look under the administrator page, notice this release drawing on non-revisional change. It's a folder, very unique folder, magical I call it, that this user can't see, or any other user for that matter. Okay, and what happens is that user comes in and says, I would like, this is a released object, so that user really not allowed to make changes to it as is. They do not want to revise it to C because it's a minor change. So what they do is they come in here and they say, would like to create a new change request, give it a name. And I don't even need a next per se, just hit finish and submit it right now. And in a minute here, once I refresh this page, watch out. Look what's going to happen to this drawing. So I refresh the page and voila, disappeared. Where did it go? How do I get to it? Well, this is the restriction, is that I really want this to be process controlled. So at this point, what Windchill had done, it sent you a task to complete drawing update. And if you scroll down to the affected object, you can open at this point a drawing and add it to the workspace. Notice here secure information, because that user cannot see particularly that object because they don't allow to see anything in that folder. Oh, sorry, they can't see the folder, not the object within it. And they can add to workspace, proceed, check it out, and check it in. Additionally, the state of the object went to in work. And as part of that process, I've taken the initiator of the CR. So it's not like everybody can go in there, search for that drawing and make changes. Not at all. It's specific to the initiator of that CR. So it's really very restrictive. And if I was to add models and assemblies to that CR, it would have ignored them entirely. It would have not moved those objects. It would have only moved the drawings. And at this point here, I can check it out and check it in. And once I complete this, let me go back to my home page. Complete the drawing, complete it, and we'll go ahead and complete the task. And if I go back to the product context, and voila, there it is, and it's released again. No administrator need to do anything. It's all controlled by that process. Thank you all. I apologize. I really wanted to show you the other stuff, but hopefully you learned some of the things that we can do here. I am open for any challenges. I mean, again, all these ideas came from customers, and hopefully if you have some sort of a discrepancy internally and you'd like to improve on it, please let us know. Thanks for attending.
Robert, before we end the session, if you could just put up your final slide with contact information, so that if there's any questions on our YouTube audience, they'll know how to get a hold of us. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Robert. This was fantastic.